Welcome back, everyone, to the Sideline Report. Marvin Jackson here, along with Lou Holder, Donna, Hopkins, and our special guest, Jason Campbell. And Jason's just given out a lot of great nuggets to us about, what's going on with the Commanders and what they can do different. But let's talk about the Giant game. That game will be played there's a Giant home game in Jersey. And we usually have problems up there. But we're favored by 2. But when it's an under 3-point favorite thing, there's no underdog. I mean, it's pretty much even. And Jason, we'll start out with you, and then we'll get to Donna and Lou to talk about how you feel that game's going to go.
Anytime you play an NFC East game, you just never know, especially when it comes to the record. You can just throw the records out the door. It's all about heart and pride and going out there playing with a lot of passion and emotion. And I think the Giants, watching that game Sunday night, I'm pretty sure they feel like they walking out of Buffalo giving one away. I don't understand how you not kick a field goal right before the half, and you saw the coach all over Tyrod Taylor, but I know in that situation, he shouldn't have been all over Tyrod Taylor because they think 14 seconds on the clock, you can run a play and still have time to clock it, but they didn't. But that's the bottom number though, and that's very hairy. You've always heard people say you can only do that with 16 seconds on the clock. And I guarantee they gave Tyrod Taylor 2 plays. And the first one was a pass. And the second was, if we get this certain front, I want you to kill it to this run play. Because when he did this, he killed the play to the run play. And Dabo was all over Tyrod. He should have been all over his coordinator. But that's on him. You got to kick the field goal. So I just think the Giants coming out of that game, when you lose one like that, it hurts you a lot. And I think Washington winning one in Atlanta, I think they have the momentum going into this game. But I think it's going to come down to whichever quarterback I think protects the football, honestly, because, Tyrod is a guy, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. I think, for Washington, they probably wish they were playing Daniel Jones more than they are playing Tyrod Taylor, because Tyrod's more elusive and he doesn't take as many chances as Daniel Jones does with the ball, which gives your defense an opportunity to get interceptions. So I think this game is just going to come down to quarterback play, but also, who can play the best defense up front by putting pressure on the quarterback.
And Jason, also who could start, because this Commanders team haven't put back-to-back games together because they win a game and then they fall apart in the next game. But the Giants, that was just some dumb play by the Giants up there before the half, like you said, and at the end of the game. But running back seems to be the problem with this Commanders defense, also stopping good running backs. And Saquon Barkley is one guy who had 93 yards in that loss, but he creates problems for them all the time. The Giants also was without 2 of their starting offensive linemen. Don't know for sure if they're going to be back. But like you said, fast starts is key for this Washington team, because on the offensive side and the defensive side, they have a tendency to start slow, and they can't afford to do that. Like you said, throw out the records. Records don't mean nothing. The Giants with 1 win? But with Washington going up there, they've got to be able to play a complementary football on all phases. And like you said, it's going to come down to mistakes. The defense, I think, is going to have to force those turnovers like they did in Atlanta. This was the first time they had 2 going in there, and they end up with 5. And the defensive line only 19 sacks on the year. So that pressure up front, them playing a solid ball all the way around. But again, the Giants was just stupid with that play last week in their loss.
Donna, who would you like to see at quarterback going against Washington, Taylor or Jones?
Well, like Jason said, Taylor doesn't make many mistakes. But Daniel Jones against this Commanders team runs circles around them. It seemed like every year. So I don't think that it matters as far as what quarterback. It is more on the end of the defense and them playing the type of ball that they're capable of that we haven't really seen totally yet. But I know Lou is biting at the bite to talk about Emmanuel Forbes.
But before I do that, I just, you talk about it being even. I mean, when we were up there last year, Donna, it was a tie.
It
I mean,
was.
so it was a tie. And there was good things that we saw. There was bad things that we saw. Again, going back to the whole Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson had one of those great spin moves. He got into the end zone. It was part of his confidence builder. But I agree with Donna. That defense, Jack Del Rio's defense, it's got to be that consistent next this coming up weekend, because again, the offense is scoring points. It's finding a way to score points. But if the defense, it needs, Jamin Davis coming up with an interception. It needs Benjamin St. Juste to show up. It needs that secondary. It needs all of that. It needs the push, because that's the most deflating part of this whole thing, is that the offense it's sputtering at times, but it is putting up points. But the defense, as of before Atlanta, man, it was just so disappointing. So again, putting those together again, another strong defensive effort, that is going to be paramount to coming out of the Meadowlands with a victory.
Jason, you played a lot of NFC East games up in New York. How did the players always feel going into those tough NFC East division games like that?
Yeah, it was always, you knew it was going to be a battle, because you knew the crowd noise was going to be, electric, especially when you go on the road in NFC East, that you have to get off to those fast starts, because if you get off to a slow start, the more the crowd just continue to feed and feed and feed, and you're just fighting a battle where you're trying to block out the noise while you're trying to play together. But most of it is, don't get behind on the road in those stadiums. That's like, if you can get ahead in those games on the road, you can make their home team start to put pressure, their home crowd put pressure on their own home teams. Because if something doesn't happen well, you know how impatient New York fans are, you know how impatient Philly fans are, even Dallas. So if you can get ahead in those games early, you put the weight on the home team and more than you are as the opposing team. So, this team just got to go out there and understand it's going to be a physical game. And you got to understand that this thing is also won by matchups, winning your one-on-one matchups. I think Kyle Fuller, I think what he did this past weekend, coming back after that Chicago game, where he had a tough outing on that Thursday night, he ended up coming back in this Atlanta game. He played with a lot more confidence, and Kendall Fuller. Now I keep Kyle thinking about another guy in college, but yeah, Kendall Fuller, he come out there and he's playing good, and he seals the deal with the interception. But, it's going to take this team not giving up the big play on the road. Like, the Giants have made some plays here and there, like say Saquon have made some. But if I'm Washington, why not load the box up and make Tyrod Taylor, receivers, show me that they can beat me? You got to show me first that you can air the ball out and you can beat us through the passing game, because we're not going to let Saquon beat you in this game.
It's funny that you said that, Jason, because they made some adjustments in the Atlanta game as far as putting 5 men up in front, because they knew that Robinson on the Atlanta side was possibly had played well. And like you said, as they say, just do your job. They had a sign last week about doing your job. And that was the key thing in the past, is that a lot of guys weren't doing what they're supposed to do with their jobs. They was pressing too much, doing everybody else's job. Because when you look at the Giants wide receivers, Darius Slater, you've got Robinson, Waller, Hyatt. So they're going to be having to play top ball as far as looking at those receivers. They've got a running game. I just think that Jack Del Rio has to be able to make adjustments like he did in the Atlanta game, because at one time somebody had asked him, hey, you all are getting torched playing man-to-man. Why don't you go to more zone? But I'm not even going to tell you what he said about that. But anyway, he made some adjustments. But this team has to be able to come out, like I said, quick again. But what is your thoughts on Emmanuel Forbes? Because they benched him during the Atlanta game, and Ron Rivera said that he wanted him to kind of like set back and just reset a little bit, because the pressure was a lot of pressure on him 2 weeks straight that, he was getting beat bad. What's your thoughts on him and keeping him moving forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. Emmanuel Forbes, he was at Mississippi State. He was a confident guy, kind of the Fred Smoot mentality a little bit. And then, you end up coming to Washington and, everyone has a lot of high praise on you, early on. And then he did have some early success in that first game. They played a little bit against Arizona and he had some, and then coming out that Philly game, I think the Philly game is where he lost a little confidence, getting beat late in that game. I think he went to the sideline and, the camera was on him and everything. And all of a sudden, he's just kind of like getting in his head. And it's a corner. One thing you can't do is get in your head if you're going to be effective corner and be considered as a guy that can play one side of the field and not have to have a lot of help. And I think early on, you come out of college, he's used to not having help from a confidence standpoint because he's like, I can play this man to man. I got him. Everybody else, y'all just take care of everybody else. Where now you in the pros, it ain't that easy. Like you can't come in this league as a rookie and say, I'm gonna go over here and play their best receiver one-on-one and lock him down. And all of a sudden you get a couple balls, you get beat early in some games, you get things that hadn't happened to you when you was in college is now happening to you in the pros, and you don't know how to respond to it because you haven't been in that situation. So I think Coach Rivera just said, hey, we just gonna back you up a couple of steps right now, allow you to kind of see it from afar and then learn a little bit more. And then instead of just putting you out there in the midst of all of it right now, that maybe we thought you may have been ready for, but we need to prepare you a little bit more. And I think it also comes down to film study. He has to understand how to study. And as well, it's not just lining up in front of somebody, just using your overall athletic ability and stopping someone. You got to be able to study the game and know the game to be an effective corner at this level.
We got the Ravens going against one of the top teams in the NFC, the Lions, coming up. Few seconds on anybody. What you think about that game? Because the Lions are playing well. The Ravens, that's going to be a tough game. Donna?
Yeah, it is because like you said, the Lions basically is one of the teams that's hot right now. But the Ravens bounced back after their loss also. So they seem to have put some of the pieces together as far as with that team, but it's in Baltimore, so that's a plus. But you got to be wary of those Detroit Lions because their defense is solid. They've got a good offensive line, and their quarterback play is pretty good right now.
Jason, thanks so much for being with us. Who do you have in New York? You got the Commanders, Jason?
You put Jason on the spot.
I think the Commanders can go there and win this game. Both teams have struggled running the football. Like I said, Giants get Saquon back, but if I'm Washington, you got to make them go one-dimensional. Show me you can beat me with the pass, and then that's what they're going to do to Washington. Is they know Washington wants to throw the football, so they're pretty much just probably going to drop a lot of their guys in coverage, and until Washington can improve, they can run the football. So it's going to be a matter of a chess match here in New York, but I think Washington can go out there and pull it out.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us.
I just wrote that down, Marvin. I just wrote down what Jason said.
We got to thank him for being with us. He's always on point. And thanks so much, Lou, Donna, and Jason. And thanks for joining us here on the Sideline Report. So for the Sideline Report, I'm Marvin Jackson. We'll see you next time on the Sideline. Take care, everybody.